Plastic coolant parts on your way, new-ish modern vehicle. Are they a good thing or a bad thing? Well, today I'm going to discuss what my thoughts are on these. Hey, I'm Shane from Shane's Shed. I mostly do DIY automotive stuff, predominantly on my Land Rover Discovery 3, although it hasn't made an appearance on the channel for quite a while. I've got my big old square body Suburban here as well. Basically whatever else I can get my hands on as well, I'll work on. But recently I had this little plastic component fail on the cooling system on a Discovery 3, and I just wanted to have a chat about how long this has been in there for, some pros and cons of them, and what I think you should do moving forward. If you've got a new vehicle, you're not going to give a shit about this because you're not going to have this problem, to be honest. So my Disco has done 440,000 kilometres now. I've got a reasonable list of various plastic components within the cooling system I've replaced over the years. I've made notes of the kilometres that they're on, so we're going to have a discuss and go from there. So, like I said, this is the one that failed. Now, it's supposed to have another barb on this end, and important thing is to notice is this bit here that you can normally see, that looks perfectly fine, but as you can see, this barb side that's within the hose, inside it, it's completely shot. I mean, that's a piece of the barb that come out, and it's just crumbles. There's nothing to it anymore. So that is a problem as far as I'm concerned, because you can't, without pulling it apart, you can't really tell what sort of condition it's in. So a lot of cars will have common known problems. You may know of a few issues on the vehicle that you own. Disco 3 and 4, when it comes to the cooling system, a known problem is the coolant outlet at the top of the V. Now, I sort of would recommend that because it's a known issue, you should look at changing it out at least every timing belt change, which for these is 160,000 Ks. Now, I know there's some people out there who recommend changing them sooner. Whatever you do, it probably doesn't matter so much, as long as you're doing it as a preventative change and doing it regularly enough in time to prevent a failure. So, with mine, I bought my Disco and it had about 175-ish thousand Ks on it. I first done that coolant outlet at 195,800. That was a preventative change out. The next item I changed out was at 266,000 Ks, or nearly 267. I done a thermostat replace. Now, the thermostat on these suckers is like an octopus. It sits down at the bottom of the front of the radiator. It's within a plastic housing again. It's got hoses everywhere. If you've seen one, you know what I'm talking about. Don't think there was anything wrong with the thermostat or anything at that time. It was just one of those things I done as a preventive change out. But also at that same time, the main outlet that comes off that the main coolant outlet, the hose that comes off there, there's a plastic fitting on there. It's not really a quick release, but it's got a little clip in there. You pull it out. That failed in the barb. It didn't come away completely. It was still functional, but it was leaking coolant. So when I pulled it apart, it was just basically, it was lucky not to have let go completely. At 315,000 Ks, I end up replacing the radiator, and again, this is probably something that people would probably know about nowadays. Pretty much every radiator now has plastic tanks on them. So it just broke off a barb at the top, just while I was doing some other work, just knocked it and the whole thing fell off. So yeah, that was a whole new radiator just for that. I mean, one of those things you probably could have bodged up, but why bother, right? Coolant outlet again at the top of the V, that happened again at 358,000 Ks. Again, a preventative change out. I think that was possibly, that was when I'd done, I believe, my oil cooler change out, so I'll put a new one on at that stage while I had everything apart. Another one, another plastic component was the coolant inlet fitting on the bottom of the block. That was at 368,000. Again, I'd done another thermostat then. I can't remember why. There was probably a coolant leak around that area. So, yes, it was definitely a coolant leak. I remember it now. The thermostat seam had split and there was a drip. And then that brings me to my latest one at 440,000 kilometers, was the EGR T-piece, and it also has the temp sensor in it. So, as you can see, there's been a couple of failures along the way, and there's been a few preventative change-outs as well. So, where to go from here? Like I said, these components are everywhere throughout a new vehicle with a cooling system. There is T-piece, well, especially with my D3, where it's got the rear air conditioning and heater system. There is more plastic connections and T-pieces that go down to the back of the vehicle for that. So I'm really thinking that a preventative change out is definitely in order to prevent this happening. Now, when I look at my previous history, my first main failure was at 266,000 Ks. So, I would probably recommend, probably moving forward now, I'm thinking that probably about every 200,000 Ks, it may be good advice to replace probably every plastic component you see in your cooling system, maybe apart from the radiator, because that's a pretty big unit and it's a pretty big cost. If you're paying somebody else to replace it, it's possibly a big labour cost. It depends on the vehicle, to be honest. Like, some are really easy to pull out, others not so much. But generally, it's the most expensive part of your cooling system. Everything else is going to add up as well if you're replacing all these plastic components. But I think if you're going to be keeping your vehicle for a while, it's going to be really, really good peace of mind. So that's where I'm sort of come from. My D3 is probably he's definitely the first vehicle I've owned that's got so much plastic componentry throughout the cooling system. I've had other things before that are just, plastic header tanks on your radiator. That's been commonplace for a long, long time now. So they're nothing new, but they fail. The plastic, it cops heat cycles, it cools down. Every failure or every item I've replaced so far that's plastic has some sort of degradation. Like the coolant inlet at the bottom of the V, that thing was leaking. But when I pulled it out, it basically fell apart. So, I've got a couple of items left that I need to get on and do, I think, as a priority. So moving forward, guys, my recommendation is do some preventative change outs. Murphy's Law suggests if you're going to have a failure, like a catastrophic failure, it is going to be at the worst possible time. It's either going to be while you're going uphill on the hottest bloody day, when you got all your family in the car, because the last failure, that's what happened to me. So just change the shit out. That's all I can say. If you're like me, I'm owning an older vehicle because I don't have to pay for repayments on the damn things. I own them outright. So the cost of maintaining them is pretty cheap in comparison to the repayment. So just bite the bullet, like Nike says, just do it. Just change that shit out. So if you've got any stories and feedback you'd like to share on plastic coolant components, please throw them down in the comments below. I greatly appreciate your feedback and your experiences. If you like this content, please don't forget to whack that thumbs up button. And there's always a super thanks if you're really feeling generous. And please subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And I will see you all on the next one. Bye, guys.